Hey, welcome back to the show. So 2025 has been a great whiskey year, and I wanted to just highlight some of the things that really stood out for me, not necessarily any kind of top 10 list. Just want to highlight some things that I thought were exceptional, and maybe some trends that were notable for 2025. So let's start off with some scotch. Now, I had the privilege of tasting some just phenomenal scotch this year. My friend Steve has an incredible collection, a lot of stuff that you can only get in the UK. So, for example, this whiskey sponge, if you can find whiskey sponge, it's typically UK only, but if you happen to be traveling there, so whiskey sponge is an independent bottler. This particular bottle is a barrel from the Ben Nevis distillery. Ben Nevis, I have not met a Ben Nevis that I don't like. This particular one is 27 years old, and it's finished, matured, and finished in a sherry butt, and it is just incredible. So also 55% ABV, so 110 proof, which is kind of unusual. Although I am seeing more scotches that are coming up in higher proof, but this is just insane. This comes from a Whiskey Sponge is the parent company of Whiskey Sponge is Decadent Drinks. It's hard to describe this like spicy honey kind of thing. No smoke on it. It's not peated, but just fruity, rich, full flavored. And obviously with Whiskey Sponge, they're profiling many different distilleries. Glen Grant, tons of different ones. So, but this one in particular is just incredible. This is a bottle that that my friend Steve loaned to me, and he's not getting back. Another brand, another Scotch that has been incredible, that I have been introduced to this year is Jura. This is a kind of a unicorn. This is a 10-year-old, but this dates back to like the early 90s. But I love Jura. Someday I'd like to go there. This little tiny island. Oh, that's got an amazing, that caramel vanilla aroma. I don't know what this is aged in, but I don't know where again Steve gets this incredible stuff. But if you can find anything in particular, maybe some of the older stuff. Although at 10 years, this is still incredible. But Jura and Whiskey Sponge were great as far as the scotches are concerned. Now, as far as bourbon, there have been a lot of bourbons that I think I've enjoyed. So I want to start off profiling Ed Bly's company, Old Stubborn. This is Old Stubborn. This happens to be the Weeded Mash Bill and the Old Swagger. I mean, first of all, the bottles themselves are works of art, hand-blown glass. But the whiskey inside, it's one of those situations where the whiskey inside really matches up to the beauty of the bottles. Both of them are excellent. The Old Swagger's a 10-year-old bourbon bottled in bond, and this Old Stubborn, this particular bottle, this is 11 to 142, comes in at 64.43 ABV, and was one of their weeded mash bills. And this is maybe the most incredible weeded bourbon I've had, and that includes Pappy's. This is rich and bready. I think the pot distilling process, in addition, just brings out all that oily goodness. It smells like a bakery, a sweet bakery, like almost maybe like a pumpernickel bread, like a raisin pumpernickel bread. Just incredible. These sold out, within minutes. I think they're coming up. Ed's coming out with a new release, I think in January of 2026. So keep your eye out, because once they're gone, and they go fast. But this of the two of them, I like them both, but this Old Stubborn, to me, this just, this is right up my alley. A higher proof weeded bourbon that's not as stringent, because some of those higher proof weeded bourbons can get this way. This maintains this rich, bready sweetness and is absolutely delicious. The other company that I want to talk about from the bourbon perspective is the Augusta Distillery, and their Buckners. And I have a bunch of these bottles. I've got the 10, I have a 13, I think I have a 15 floating around too. And some of these, the 13s in particular, the 15s, that's another buzzword for 2025 was buff turkey. People going nuts over those, and there's several distillers that are putting out these buff turkeys, but Augusta being one of them. Interestingly enough, I like them. I like the 15 and I like the 13. The 10-year is my favorite. This one I got from Preet Liquors. It comes in 115 proof, and I think for me, especially that 15-year, it's very oaky, and like I feel like And if you like that kind of rich, oak wood, forward kind of bourbon, you're going to go nuts for those. Maybe a good example of a similar taste would be like a Russell's 15, which I think I prefer the 13 for the same reason. That's just me. But this 10 still has plenty of maturity at 10 years of age, but it still retains more of that bright sweetness. In particular, there's some spice there, but in particular, like the caramel and the vanillas. That just for me, I just prefer it. I think it's a little bit easier to drink, and for me, this one was a winner. What else do we have here? I would be remiss also talking about bourbons if I didn't mention Sealbox. Sealbox is awfully good to me. Every month or so, I get another surprise in the mail from Sealbox. Sealbox.com. I don't get a commission. They send me some bottles, but I don't get a commission or paid to say this. But if you're looking for something, go on their website. They have great stuff. But in particular, this wheated bourbon, 107 proof, right, that same proof as like Weller Antique 107. Really nice, priced around $50. Sealbox has the tightest corks. Again, another wheated bourbon, that's my thing. Sweet, cherry, easy to drink, and I think if you like the Weller lineup, I think this would be right up your alley. Really good. I have so many bottles from them. I have that Christmas rye, the 8-year, the 10-year, the Sealbox, that private label. Blake really picks some good stuff. So look out for Sealbox. Check them out online. They really carry some terrific stuff. But for this one, for what you get for $50, chef's kiss. All right. So what else do we have here? Let's talk a little bit about rye. So another company to watch, making a splash this year, is Middle West Spirits out of Columbus. They not recently, 6 months ago or maybe 8 months ago, they acquired Old Elk. But Middle West Spirits makes just superb whiskey. And for me, the ones that really stood out to me are the Pumpernickel Rye. This happens to be a ported Pumpernickel Rye. So this one was finished in French Tawny Port. But the Pumpernickel Rye, just in general, just gives a whole nother dimension. I'm just smelling them. I can't drink all of them on a YouTube. But rich. It's not herbal, which to me, I don't always care for an herbal rye. This, again, tends to lean more towards that sweet profile, what I like. But this is just look at the color on that too. This is just a beautiful bottle. The other one that I loved from Middle West Spirits was their wheat whiskey that was finished in Oloroso sherry. Insanely good, just rich, decadent. And so those are ones to look out for. But look out for Middle West Spirits. They make beautiful whiskey. And the other company, another buzzword this year as far as making a splash. Some independent bottlers making a splash, but none. I think at the top of the list here, other than, let's say, Rare Character would be one, but the other one would be River Roots. Also, they're putting out some buff turkeys, but some of these ryes are just insane. So this is the King Triton, Ruler of the Parkas. I can't remember where this was sold from, what retailer, but 14-year rye, 118.8 proof. And it to me, this is a world-class rye whiskey. I don't know. I think this is sold out. I don't think you're going to find this one, but we don't see them in New York, but I know in Connecticut and certain states, there's quite a few of these barrels, these 14-year, Ross and Squibb MGP, beautiful rye whiskey, and great bottles too. But this one is another one that my friend Steve loaned to me that he's not getting back. But River Roots, their bourbons and their ryes, they really know how to pick just world-class barrels, and that's another one that I enjoyed this year. So let's now head over to Tennessee. And Jack Daniel's, every year has outstanding releases. My two favorites, one of my favorite whiskeys of the year was the Jack Daniel's 14, just insanely good. And at this proof too. And I like the 10 and 12. Love the 10 and 12, but then when I had the 14, I think this is even next level up. Absolutely delicious. Not so easy to find. Easier to find, and now they're starting to show up, like in Connecticut and even New York. They're just starting to show up as a regular release, shelfer around $65. are the Heritage barrels. This is, I think, incredibly good. The Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select is terrific. This is a way, I think, a step up from that, around $65, 100 proof. And this is just, everything that you like about Jack Daniel's, the premium level Jack Daniel's stuff, that nice sweetness from the Lincoln County process, easy drinkability, rich. I very often on these Jack Daniels get a little bit of that, like almost like a chocolate cherry note, but these are super. So let's keep an eye out for these Jack Daniels, and obviously the other, the hero selections. I've got just about every Jack Daniels bottle back here, but this one, again, what I like about this is the fact that it is available, or if it isn't in your area, it should be over the next couple of months. What did I miss here? I mean, so many other good things. I mean, it's so hard even to, I'm just looking to see, what's on my shelf, but it's always hard to, profile everything. But those are some of the ones that I think really stood out over 2025. But if I had to give you like sort of to me, the biggest thing this year were the buff turkeys. Elkwood Reserve is another independent bottler that just came out with just some insane buff turkeys, but those are the ones that people have been, really clamoring for. So we'll have to see how that, goes into 2026. Who knows what the next big thing will be? But 2025, I think, was a great year, and for me personally, 2025 was the first time, sort of in my bourbon journey, that I wasn't necessarily chasing the BTAC. And I think some of these other companies, in particular the independent bottlers, have really caught my attention. The craft distillers, I have content about the Kentucky Bourbon Fest with just the great stuff that the craft distillers like Whiskey Thief. There's so many that I'm missing. Dark Arts are putting out that, for me, I think I'm kind of, listen, the BTAC is great, don't get me wrong, but I'm not chasing those $800 GTSs anymore, because I think there's a lot of other things that you can get that are lower in price, that are just fantastic quality, and they're different and unique. And that was, to me, that was the 2025, I suppose, in a nutshell. It was, I think, kind of the year of the independent bottler. Now, obviously, there's been lots of news recently. Jim Beam, maybe, shutting down some production. Other companies may be shutting down production. So I know there's definitely some uncertainty, in the whiskey world coming into the new year. I'm hoping, from a consumer standpoint, that as maybe some demand is going down, that maybe some of the older stock will be available at, maybe at, more reasonable prices too. So I think that's something to keep an eye out for 2026. But just a week away, will be the calendar's going to flip over. So who knows what the trends will be. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the next big thing in 2026? Let me know in the comments. And as always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you soon. Cheers.